Oh, what's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 76 of the Stand Up Guys podcast. I'm your host, the incomparable Zach Jones, joined as always by the Atlas to my Humulus, Lester Jones.
Atlas is the more famous one. Usually you make me Humulus.
Well, really, I should have been Atlas because I'm carrying this show on my shoulders.
Yeah, you will be today.
Yeah, you're not feeling super well today, are you?
Not great.
Did you get some of that pink eye from AJ?
Yeah, it's bad.
Speaking of
There's
AJ,
contact high.
Speaking of AJ, sadly still not here this week, still cooperating from his ass-eating accident that we detailed on last week's show.
Yep. Has to get some pins in his neck.
And, I mean, it actually found out it was even worse than we suspected from last week because apparently all that doo-doo butter he was splattered with had COVID in it. So now on top of everything,
he's got
COVID. You're feeling bad today, speaking of which, because you got your booster shot, right?
So what happened is the ex and the kids, they went on vacation to Chicago.
Chicago is how you pronounce
with
it.
Jay. Yeah, I don't know how you pronounce it. That sounds more like a Boston accent. But anyway. Yeah, so they went on vacation to Chicago, and they had one day to themselves, and then they caught COVID. And so I was like, fuck, I need to go get a booster, I guess, because they're going to come back and give me COVID.
Don't want that Omicron or whatever.
And the thing is, I don't even really care about the virus. I think I'd be fine if I caught the virus. It's just, my work is so anal, I'd probably be out of work for a couple weeks, and I'm just like, I can't do that shit. So I went and got the shot, and then, I didn't go to work today because I didn't feel very good.
I mean, I'm already working from home for the most part, but maybe if I get COVID, it would give me an excuse just to never go back in.
Yeah. Be like,
Sorry.
Oh, it's still positive.
6 months later, sorry, man.
I don't know what's going on. It just keeps being positive.
Oh, man. I got to say, working from home is the best. I fucking hate going in. Oh, man. Okay, we got to cover. Speaking of your work, you gave me a story this week that I think you should tell.
Yeah. There's a story this week. So I work as a security guard, like I've said a million times, but apparently the shift before me had chased a guy around his parking garage for half the night. And so I get there and they're like, "Hey, can you go out and check on this?" And I get out there. And the guy is passed out. He's in a sleeping bag. But, oh, God, it's so horrible. So there's this gigantic shit right there, right? And it's the shape of the Jurassic Park Triceratops shit. It's it's kind of solid. It's kind of mushy. And it's kind of it's wet and damp out. So it's kind of it's spread a little bit. And so this guy, before he passed out, he took this gigantic shit, and then he passed out, he went to sleep right next to it, just a foot away from it. And I get up and I'm like, oh Jesus, this is awful. And the other guy had gone home at this point and just abandoned him, he didn't want anything to do with it anyway. He's like, you guys aren't paying me enough for this shit,
Literally.
But so I get out there and I find him, and he's sleeping, but he's gone to sleep next to his shit. At some point, he's rolled into the shit. And he's got shit all over his sleeping bag, and it's awful. And so I try to rouse him. I yell and I try to disturb enough to get up, but he'll give me a couple seconds where he just kind of mumbles and just straight back out into hard snoring, and I assume that's drug use, but he was pretty out of it. And so me and a bike guy had come, and we were sitting there kind of watching him and taking turns and relieving people and just doing whatever, but we haven't done too much with him. And of course, the person I'm with, Polly, is a transgender female. She loves bad puns. So for 10 minutes, 10 minutes plus it slowed down around 10 minutes, right? But it's like, oh, it's a shitty day. They don't pay me enough to put up with this crap. Usually like I like a good shit in the morning. And it was just like, it was endless. I was like, oh God. It's like part of me wanted to join in, part of me just wanted it to end. But yeah, so that's going on for a while. And so our office calls this kind of like a charitable company that they work with the homeless. And these two kind of fairly young girls, I'd say probably 20s, pretty good looking. They come out and they're talking to him. They kind of get him to where he's talking to him a little bit. He's mumbling. He's really hard to understand. And, they're like, you want some food? You want some water? They're just trying to get him to kind of sit up so they can assess how he is. Because if he's bad enough and they assess it badly enough, then they can basically have him picked up and taken in for health reasons. But he's not really coming out. Like he sticks his hand out when they offer him food. And he won't put his head out. He won't do anything other than that. So they give him a granola bar. And he's got this granola bar, and he's kind of crumpling it in his hand. He's like, "That's not food. That's not food." And I'm like, "Oh man!" And then like, he's like, just his hand sticking out, and like he starts rubbing it on the ground, and there's this shit right here, and he's like rubbing it, and I'm like, "Oh, please." Please don't eat this. He's like, it's not food. It's not food. And so like they end up giving him some chips, and he's kind of like do the same thing with the bag. He's like, it's not food. This isn't food. And eventually they give him some water, and so we kind of step back and we're talking. They're like, he's obviously bad. He's probably been on drugs. He's having some issues, but he's probably not bad enough to, get him to take him in. And so somewhere during this, like he's taking the food back under his sleeping bag. And like I hear the chips rattling. And I hear him eating in there. And I'm just like, I know his hand and the food has touched shit. And he's just under there just like eating his own shit. Oh, it was... Oh, I just wish they hadn't like given him anything. It's like I was just it's just so raw. But
I mean, based on the size of the shit he took, apparently he had been eating.
Yeah, apparently he wasn't starving. He was slim when he finally came out and saw him, but yeah, he took it was a pile. And I was just like, oh my God. But eventually they called the EMT, and they had a couple medical guys came out, and they're a little more like physical, I guess, but they covered their, what do you call their cot or whatever. I forget what it's called now.
The what?
They bring out the cot on the wheels to pick people
like a stretcher.
A stretcher. But they covered it in like plastic like 3 times, and then like they got the plastic gloves on, and like one of them's kind of trying to pull back the sleeping bag so he can talk to him and stuff, and he starts getting agitated, and
but it is a health risk if he's covered in shit.
Yeah, but nobody wants to deal with
I know
shit.
I know.
These guys were good. They were really, really nice, and they were actually willing to do it, but he starts pulling it back, and they're like, can we get you help, whatever? And the guy's just, no. Like, he refused everything. And, like, finally, he just got agitated enough. He got up with his sleeping bag and walked off. But, like, his pants under the sleeping bag, they were all covered in shit. Like, it was just something to behold. And, like, what do you even do? Like, I didn't have, like, anything in my tool bag to deal with this guy. Like, I don't want to get close to it. Like, I don't want to touch anything that's shitty. And just like, maybe he wins. Like, even the paramedic, after he left, he was like, if there's an apocalypse, like, he's the guy who's gonna go the distance, because he's
gonna be like the
there.
cockroaches in that guy.
Right. He's gonna be okay. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, I was telling you, this guy apparently never heard "Don't shit where you sleep" or eat.
like what kind of state do you have to be in? Because
I'm actually
your instincts have to be pretty strong.
I mean, the state this guy's in, I'm surprised he didn't just like shit in his pants. I'm surprised he actually like
he had the wherewithal to
shit on the pavement. You know?
Yeah. You think maybe it was just like such a good shit? He's like, oh god.
Now I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm tuckered now.
It was like an orgasm shit and he had to go straight to sleep.
I mean, but you'd think, yeah, like I just took a big shit, like, yeah, maybe I'll go at least, 10, 12 feet away.
Feet, yeah.
Something. Not
like
sleep
right
next to it in roll position,
I will say, though,
close.
like, if you don't want like somebody to fuck with you.
Oh, yeah, maybe it was like keeping other people away.
Because you roll up on this guy, you're like, I'm not fucking with him. I'm not going to, try to steal his shoes. I'm not going to, like, no. Like, even other homeless people would be like, I'll go, I'll do something else.
You know how they say in prison, like on your first day, like take a swing at the biggest guy there. My new thing is on your first day, take a big old shit right by your bed.
just smear yourself in shit.
Be like,
who wants some?
I'm not fucking with that guy ever.
Yeah. I'd be like, oh, Shitty Johnson, you want to leave him alone?
It would be a good tactic. Nobody's gonna fuck with you if you're covered in shit.
You ever tried to catch a shit greased?
I went to stab him in his sleep when I stepped in a pile of his shit.
I'd be like one of those guards in the Green Mile that just breaks out the fire hose and just like hoses your skin off. And be like, you gonna do that again? Jeez. Oh.
Man, speaking of shit, like I was watching Your Mom's House and like
great segue.
Always. But anyway, like they went online and they showed this thing that's called like I want to say it's called like the Bristol Scale or something like that.
That sounds familiar.
But basically it shows like 7 different types of shit.
Okay.
And like, 1 means you're constipated. It goes like 1 through 7. 1 is constipated. 7 is just like water shit. Yeah, right. Like you're sick. And like all the range in between. But the funny thing is looking at it, I'm like, I recognize all those shits. I've had all those shits at one time or another. But the funny thing is like, so yeah, like number 7 is just like basically straight liquefied water, and we've all had that at one time or another. But 1 is like the small pebble shits.
Oh. And
that supposedly means like, according to their scale, that you're like really constipated. But like, I have those type of shits regularly. And like, I'm never like feel like I'm constipated. Like constipated to me means like you feel you have to shit, but you can't. Like I'm never like that, but I have those shits frequently.
Like if I eat some cheese, I'll definitely have a hard shit. But like it's kind of funny because sometimes in little pebbles, it's like a lot of work. You're just like, ah!
Which maybe is a sign of constipation,
right? Yeah.
What's weird though is like
sticking to the sidewalk.
Lately I've been taking like probably 2 shits a day, and like usually one of them is one of those, and then the other one is more like probably a healthier consistency, like a 3 or a 4 on their scale or whatever. The healthy ones,
middle of the range.
So like I don't know, I much prefer having those like hard shits than like a sloppy sticky one.
The sticky ones.
Sticky ones are the worst.
Got to be close to the worst. Yeah.
That's what I gotta say. Another reason I love the bidet is when you do get a sticky shit, you can actually get clean. Whereas with toilet paper, you just like you wipe until you're like physically tired, and then you're like, man, I gotta call this one.
Yeah. There's like shit and blood on the toilet paper. You're like, oh, I guess that's as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah, guess I'm gonna have swamp ass today.
It's me and you, garage guy.
Oh man. Well, speaking of shit, what kind of shit you been watching this week?
Man, I've just been kind of having like Trailer Park Boys in the background.
Oh yeah,
I watched a little Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I've never watched Trailer Park Boys. Like, I mean, what's the premise? Is it like idiots in a trailer park basically? Or?
It's basically like a few idiots who are always scheming like ways to make money by committing like petty crime.
Is that a Canadian show?
Yeah,
I thought I heard that it was Canadian, but Yeah, like I've seen it. Like, is it on Netflix?
Yeah, Netflix.
Yeah, I've like seen it. Like, come up on there. But I was just always like, I was never intrigued enough to try it.
It just kind of reminds me of home.
Yeah. I grew up in a trailer park. I don't know if I need to
to relive it.
to relive. I don't know if I have nostalgia for it. Although, fuck, did we have some characters in our trailer park? Holy shit!
Yeah, it's definitely like a case study.
I still feel like we could make a hit reality show. We should just like find the most like bodacious trailer parks, like probably in a Florida one, and just make a reality show out of it.
I mean, we could go back and live at home and do it.
I mean, yeah, that's probably true, but I feel like a Florida one would have even more psychos in it.
There's some interesting ones where it's like they have like a lot of old people and things are fairly well kept and orderly, and you're like, yeah, I could see this being okay. But then you get like some hillbilly one where, someone's growing marijuana under their trailer, another guy's got meth going, the big old fucking meth fire one day or something random shit, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, we definitely had the marijuana guy next to us.
After we left, like the landlord like had a shootout with the cops over some drug shit. It's like it's just random shit.
Yeah, I mean, over the years, man, just so many characters in there.
As a kid, like we were so accustomed to it. I don't think we were even close to realizing how fucking weird that shit is.
Man, I got a story. Like, maybe I've told this on the podcast before, but if not, I don't think so. But I'll tell it anyway, just because I think it's funny. So, like, at one point for a long time, we had these two people that lived right across from us in the trailer park named Norma and Auggie. And to paint a picture, she was this woman who was like on disability, like Social Security, because she was like morbidly obese, like, what's eating Gilbert Grape's mom kind of obese. And so she couldn't really take care of herself. So she had this guy named Auggie living with her. And his history was he was literally like a hobo, like ride the rails type of hobo, like for the majority of his life. And so he had no retirement. He was poor as shit. So these guys kind of had a symbiotic relationship. Like they didn't really like each other, but he didn't have any money and she was too fat to take care of herself. So like he helped take care of her and she gave him a place to live basically. And I mean, so for one thing, he would feed all the stray cats in the neighborhood.
This is actually in Trailer Park Boys. One of the guys feeds the cats, and there's like 1 million cats.
Oh my god! And so that's exactly what happened. I mean, you guys. I mean, I think people would be shocked of how many cats were living under these guys' trailer, and how much would go in and out of their house. It was insane. I don't know how they could have stand it. There had to have been cat shit everywhere.
Right.
It had to fucking reek. I can't imagine how they did it.
Yeah, it's probably all marked. It's probably just rank with piss.
And then the other thing with her, like obviously, like they weren't sleeping together because they hated each other. She would actually in town there was and they have these in other cities as well, a sheltered workshop, which is basically where they have where like people with mental disabilities can kind of work and they get paid and whatever. Well, basically, she was having sex with as many of those guys as would have sex with her. So that's where she was finding her men, her gentlemen callers.
We have a cousin. Probably a good thing he wasn't like ripe at that time.
Man, Mick would have signed up in a heartbeat. But okay, so this is a crazy thing. So like, anytime they would drive somewhere, like I think she would actually drive, but they were like really slow. They would drive like 10 miles an hour. Well, one day, like like me and my mom and I think my sister were like driving to town, and we saw them broken down by the side of the road.
Oh.
And so my mom's like, "Oh, we better give them a ride." And I was in the back seat, so of course I got stuck next to him. And the funny thing was,
were you Lucky Pierre in the middle?
No, luckily not in the middle. Augie was in the middle. But the funny thing was, Like at one point, like he's like talking to me. He's like, maybe I had my school stuff with me. I don't remember, but he's like, "How's school doing?" And I just go, "Okay" or whatever. And I guess he interpreted that as like me not doing so well. And he's like, he says without a hint of irony in his voice, he says, don't worry, I wasn't good at school either. And I'm like, what's
Straight A's after that.
What's the rest of that sentence? And look where I am. Essentially penniless, taking care of a fucking morbidly obese woman that I can't stand, and my only friends in this world are stray cats. I'm like, the fuck. And the thing was, I didn't even do bad in school. Like I was a pretty good student, but apparently, like I didn't say it with enough enthusiasm, I guess.
That's the real scared straight.
Oh no shit! Like if I was an F student, I would be like, fuck.
You need to talk to this guy.
I mean, like if that was his tactic, was a scared straight thing, it would make sense. But I swear there was not a hint of irony in his voice. Like he told me that straight face. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like even as a kid, I was like, fuck. Are you kidding me? So yeah, Norma and Auggie, man, what a pair. What a pair. So you just been mostly again playing Far Cry, right? Far Cry 6?
Yeah, I played too much Far Cry.
Oh yeah, you watched Trailer Park Boys. Anything else? You watched a little bit of Nora from Queens, didn't you?
Yeah, I watched, I don't know, 3 or 4 of those, and it's amusing. I don't know if I'm in love with it, but there's some funny stuff. And then I finished the last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Well, I don't think it's as strong as it used to be, but maybe they're kind of shaking the rust off.
Man, Curb is one of those shows that, like, one day I really should go back and watch it, but, like, it's one of those things that I started watching, and then at some point I stopped watching it, and I have no fucking clue where I left off.
Right.
So if I ever went back, I'd probably want to just start it all over again, but it's like, now that there's, like, 10-plus seasons, it seems overwhelming.
Like it's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, but I know it is funny, and I know I would like it, but... I mean, as far as stuff I've been watching, it's very similar to last week. Well, for one, I did finish up Miles Morales Spider-Man. A good game. Anyone who played the 2018 Spider-Man, it's just more the same, which is good because it's fun. You know what I like about it is, like, I like open world games, but I don't like it when I have to, like, commit my life to them.
Right.
Like Far Cry and like I did with Assassin's Creed Odyssey last year. Like this was a game, like
gigantic.
This game is open world, but like basically I beat the game, I did all the side missions, and like yeah, and I didn't have to commit my life to it. Like
well, okay, yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like these Spider-Man games and like Batman Arkham Knight, they're all good for that. Like they're open world, but they're not like, they value your time. Like you don't have to spend your whole life beating them.
I think maybe I should have done this on this game, like the Far Cry 6, but they have like a regular mode and then they just have a story mode. So like I kind of like that setup of like, if you're not like a hardcore gamer, you don't want to collect all this shit, you don't want to do all the bullshit, like you don't want to grind it out, like you can just put it on story mode and like power through it.
Well, a lot of games do that. I usually play almost all games on normal difficulty because, like, I like somewhat of a challenge, but I don't like tedious difficulty.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be infuriated, you know? But at the same time, the thing that bugged me about Assassin's Creed Odyssey that I would have turned off had I known is, like, they did this thing where, like, the enemies just constantly level up as you do. So, like... For me, like it would have been much better if, like, once I got my level high, that I could have just gone back to the places that were like dangerous and then just wreck shop. That's the way it should be. But like it just kind of maintained its difficulty, which I don't really care for.
Yeah, this one. Well, Far Cry has like a bunch of different areas, and they have different ranks, but like the low ranks are always going to be lower than the high ranks. So even as you level up, like the areas do get harder, but it's not noticeable, but it's just not like the people are completely weak anymore, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, both Far Cry and Assassin's Creed are made by Ubisoft, so they probably do like a similar type of bullshit.
Yeah, if it's the same company, they probably use similar subsystems if they can copy some of them. So,
But any game with like RPG elements, I like it when they're designed to where like if you just try to like blaze through the story, it'll probably be pretty damn difficult.
Right.
But if you actually
at some point you're gonna be like,
right,
damn.
but if you actually do the side missions and level up your character, I like it to where then you can just like pretty
And
much
it's not
wreck
too
shop.
hard.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's not too hard. I think that's the way those type of games should be designed. So yeah, I finished Miles Morales. As far as TV goes, I finished season 2 of Stargirl. Decent show. Like, if you're in the mood for like a more family friendly, superhero show rather than like The Boys or something, or it's a good choice.
It's not a gender swap of Starman, is it?
No, and in fact, Starman is in it a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So basically, like in the comics, the one criticism I would have of the show is in the comics, at least Jeff Johns' run, who he created Stargirl, and like most of the comics she's in, I think he's written, but was in the pages of JSA, and like in those comics, like she was like a teenager that ended up getting the Starman staff, and she became Stargirl.
Okay.
But then like she was with all the older members of the JSA, and they kind of like were like kind of teaching her to be a superhero, and I like that dynamic. In this one, even though some of the older JSA characters do make appearances, like they basically create a teenage version of all the JSA superheroes out of like her friends and like people she goes to high school with, and so it just like it becomes like a Scooby-Doo gang of JSA characters kind of, and I don't like that dynamic as well. I'd rather it just be like she's the one teenager and then she's learning from all the elders. Like I like that dynamic better. But it was still like it's a fun show. So, and then I just barely started Young Justice season 4, the animated show. I gotta say the first 2 episodes pretty boring this season. I'm not really getting into it yet.
I was watching some Young Just Ass, and it was pretty good.
That's the porn parody. I would watch that. Man, I feel like, are they still making porn parodies as much as they used to?
I don't know.
I feel like it used to be a really popular thing, but I don't know if it's as popular anymore.
All these OnlyFans crowding out the market.
I think that you know how like years ago when like Pirates of the Caribbean was a hot shit, they made like that Pirates of the Caribbean porn parody.
Oh yeah, the pirates.
I think that's supposedly like the best selling porno of all time.
That's a feather in your cap,
Yeah.
if you will.
Or a feather somewhere. Well, that ate up about a half hour, so that's pretty good.
This hasn't been an hour yet. Oh.
But hey, let's get into some stories, shall we? So anybody who hasn't listened to the show before, we're just going to go... usually we have AJ to pad things out, but we'll see what we can come up with here. But no, we just we find interesting stories from the week. Hopefully they'll have some funny stuff in them. Now, as tradition dictates, we usually start with AJ, but unfortunately he's not here. So, Lester, what do you got for us?
Oh, thanks.
You think I was going to start with me?
Well, because we had January 6th, there's a lot of the old
All right.
Capitol riot anniversary.
As we
stuff
record
going
this,
on.
it is the 6th, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess Biden gave a speech and stuff. And it's like, forget about it already.
I mean, should we forget about it?
I'm ready. I don't care.
I mean,
I'm thankful that people still have a little bit of fucking spice in their tank, you know?
I mean, to me,
That doesn't mean
it's
gay,
just
right?
it's just one of those. I don't know if there's much use in debating it because it's just like people on the left see it as like an insurrection attempt, and people on the right are just like, oh, it was nothing, So it's just like,
I mean, it was something. I mean,
It was
a couple
something.
people, 1 or 2 people died, right? I mean, that's not nothing.
right.
But yeah, I don't know. The people were like, "Oh, this is worse than 9/11, where like 3,000 people died." I'm like, "Yeah, that might be a."
Are people actually saying that?
People said that.
Oh
shit.
no,
I was
that's
like, "Oh,"
that's crazy. Like I'm a lefty. That's fucking crazy.
but yeah, it's just pushing it out, and like, I don't know.
But at least they are starting to like round up the people that were there, and they're getting prison sentences and stuff like that.
Well, I think they got a lot of them, which is, frankly, it's a little bit scary.
I mean, for one, a lot of them brought their cell phones with them, and you're fucked.
You did yourself.
And even the ones that didn't, I mean, there was a lot of cameras going, and
right, they just put it out, and like it goes through Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, and people are like, oh yeah, I know that guy.
You know what's crazy though is you kind of think of the government, and maybe they have all this high tech facial recognition. But just a couple weeks ago, there's this guy that's kind of a celebrity. I forget his name, but he was like on that Mr. Show sketch show back in the day, and he's like a voice on Bob's Burgers, like this guy that's done a bunch of comedic stuff over the years. But he was there, and basically, like, I guess with a lot of these people, the government just kind of put out, hey, does anybody recognize these people? And like just a couple weeks ago, someone was like, oh, that looks like that's so and so from that show or whatever, and it was him. So like you would think like his face being like on television and stuff, that if they had like fancy facial recognition shit, they would have caught him. But no, apparently it took a while.
Yeah, I mean it's getting better, but the thing is like there's such a volume of information out there. Like you're gonna try to apply this program to like 7 trillion pictures or whatever the fuck is out there. And that's difficult. I actually saw like a weird blurb recently that there was like there's a guy who like he stepped out of the mob and he was in hiding, and like he was found through Google Maps. His picture was on Google Maps and somebody found him.
Jeez.
I was like, but back to the insurrection, like I think we talked about this a little bit, but there was a guy who his son had turned him in. And now, like an anniversary article, they're like, his son is afraid that he's becoming like even worse in jail. I was like,
probably. Yeah. I mean, if somebody's that far indoctrinated to that side, I mean, your chances of getting them to come to their senses aren't very high, I feel.
But yeah, I think if you went into jail, like it'd be hard not to, because you gotta align yourself with somebody, and like if you're white, there's a white gang out there, and you know what? They're pretty fucked up.
Some of these like kind of hot button political things, like you hear these stories about like families at Thanksgiving just like getting in these big fights over politics and stuff. And to me, like, I'm like, don't these people know what like shitty small talk is for? That's literally when you bust out like, oh, it's cold outside, isn't it? Like,
man, it's snowing in the winter. Huh.
And like, I'm one of those, maybe it's just because I don't like confrontation, but like, even if like someone I was related to like said some stupid political thing that I vehemently disagreed with, I just like roll my eyes and be like, oh yeah, that's cousin Jim Bob, he's an idiot. Yeah. Like I'm not gonna engage somebody like that.
Be like, yep, okay.
Exactly.
Pass the turkey.
Like I sometimes listen to the Sarah Silverman's podcast, and like she has a lot of people like call into her, and a lot of them are like extreme lefties, and they'll like be like really upset over shit like that, and I'm just like, man, you people just got to learn to like roll your eyes at those other people. Like,
yeah, don't take shit so serious.
I know. I'm just not that guy. Like, I have my political beliefs, but like,
it's not healthy for you, man.
Nah, I don't understand. Like, just like,
I mean, I understand being passionate and having strong.
Like, you don't have to win everybody over to your side. Just know that there's some shitty people.
The thing is, like, nobody ever wins anybody over.
No. Are very few.
I mean, it's not easy.
No.
So yeah, just go home. Give your uncle a hug. And, like try to have something a little bigger in your life.
I mean, anytime I scroll through Facebook and my cousins post like some insane like right-wing propaganda, I don't go, oh, how could you possibly believe it? No, I just go, oh, that's him, and I just keep on going.
Yeah.
And I don't understand people that are like have to get caught up in every one of those. It's insane.
I mean, I understand the impulse. Like, I still feel it, but like generally, I don't engage super hard. But I do get like pissy and like I definitely have that side, but I don't try to get super deep into
No,
it.
I don't either. Especially if you know the person and you're just like, there's that guy's that guy.
Yeah.
And he's always going to be that guy.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, all right, I got a story for you. I kind of wish AJ was here for this one because I think, based on some of the names and some of the places, I think this is a story out of India.
Okay, yeah.
Facing divorce, man stars in porn video, then sends it to in-laws. Encountered with the likelihood of divorce on the grounds of impotence, which that's amazing that's a grounds for divorce in a country. I don't know. A 32-year-old.
Well, it's ridiculous. You need grounds for divorce. Be like, oh, we don't like each other. Have a nice day.
I mean, that's in rec. What is it in rec with conciliable differences? Is what most people
you
use.
have to make up shit. Yeah.
Was that what your marriage or divorce thing said?
Probably.
Or was it impotent? A 32-year-old man appeared in a homemade pornographic video with another woman and sent a 5-minute clip of the tape to his wife's father and aunt to dispel her belittling complaint. The bizarre attempt to strike back at his separated wife did not go over well with anybody, especially law enforcement. Police detained Vibha Vasu, a resident of Lal Bahadur Nagar in Hyderabad. See, it never says India, but
That does sound, India.
on an allegation made by his wife Anusha's family, and a court sent him to county jail. The couple lived together for just 15 days before separating. Anusha returned to her parents' home, but both families kept up attempts at reconciliation for some time, said the inspector. But Anusha had made up her mind and applied for divorce in a family court. She stated that her husband was impotent. Vibha Vasu soon learned the reason Anusha had provided and was infuriated. Vibha Vasu then hit upon the idea of disproving his wife's charge by getting a woman to act with him in a pornographic video, the inspector stated. It appears that a third person shot the video. During interrogation by investigators, Vibha Vasu confessed to making the recording and sending the playback to the complainants. The police department charged him under the IT Act with unsolicited transmission of an obscene video, harassment, and for making unwelcome sexual remarks. Detectives interviewed the items separately. Vibha Vasu and Anusha stressed they argued a good deal during the short time they were together. Vibha Vasu claimed their marriage was incomplete and lacked having all the necessary qualities. So, first of all, it's just ridiculous that that's the grounds for divorce. But then the fact that he's like, no, I'll show them by making a porn video. Like, this proves I'm not impotent.
Well, it's yeah.
You're going to have to choose a different box on that divorce paper. It would be funny if they admitted that videotape in the courtroom.
Like, I guess he can get it out. Like, Roman's mom, her granddad, like his first wife couldn't have kids, and apparently that's like a acceptable reason to have a second wife. So she actually had her mom had two moms, so she had two grandmoms on that side. But she said like apparently like her real mom was really shitty to her, and like her other mom was nice to her.
I mean, yeah, I guess that increases your chances of at least having a good mom. I mean, in those Mormon families, I mean, that might be a plus. We're like, man, my mom's a bitch, but mom number like 3 and 5 are okay.
Right. And also, like, if you have all those moms, you can be like, oh, you could like take a day off once in a while. You know, you'd be like, hey, I'll watch the kids on Tuesday if you want to watch them on like Thursday or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I'm sure like those things do go on in families like that. Or like, I'm not fucking him today. You fuck him today.
Yeah. It's like, nah, I'm out. But I remember when we were kids and like our mom would just be like, her and Charlene would be like, we're going out of town with no kids. We'd be like, no kids, why? You know, it makes no sense. You don't want to go with us?
And you better bring me back something.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to be real disappointed.
like they could possibly want to escape from us for like 5 minutes. The thing is, I don't think they even did it like that often.
Probably not.
But, geez, like, yeah, you got to get away from kids once in a while.
But I mean, yeah, if you remember back to when you were a kid, like you're definitely like needy.
Yeah, and you understand why parents are like, go outside, you know, don't come home until the sun goes down, until you hear me scream your name from across the valley.
Yeah, when I was a kid, like usually the only time, like one of the times when I would willingly go outside was like when my mom was cleaning house because she was always like pissed off. And I was just like, I'm gonna get out of here.
Dad had like the great out, like every time like he'd just go like to his wood shop.
Oh yeah, the wood shop.
Like going to the wood shop. And
I'll be back before dark.
Well, he was usually back in like 10 minutes because he had to take a shit, and then he'd go back again. It's like I should have shit before I left. It's like he did it almost every time.
Sometimes walking can jungle things
Yeah,
loose.
the walk there was enough.
You got another story for us in the manifesto this week?
Ex-boss paid Georgia workers final wages in oily pennies. So this dude rolls up to his employees.
We did this story once on the podcast.
Did we? Is it that old?
Yeah.
I had
It's a funny story though.
I talked about a different oily penny one.
Oh, maybe this is a different.
Well,
maybe this is a copycat.
This one wasn't oily, but there was like a there's like a NASCAR driver who received some ridiculous fine.
Yeah,
and like he pulled up and just like a bunch of people started packing these bags of pennies in to pay the fine. I was like, yeah,
that is a good fuck you.
But this guy apparently, just oiled pennies and just like dumped them in this guy's driveway.
Yeah, I remember we did that one on the podcast.
But yeah, like it was like 90,000 pennies.
But it is like
$1,000. It's so petty.
What is the oil he put on them? That's what I want to know.
Well, it was like a mechanic, I think. So we probably just dumped them in like a barrel of oil and then just fucking, which I guess is probably EPA.
Where do you get that many pennies? You like go to your bank and like take
give me all the pennies you got, and then they're like, okay, well, it's only like $1,000.
But still, that'd be rolls and rolls and rolls of pennies. It seemed like even like most banks wouldn't keep that many pennies on hand, would they?
I have no idea. But like even after that, it sounded like the guy went back and sued him for back wages because he wasn't paying him more than 40 hours and like he didn't keep good records. So he was trying to sue him for like $37,000. And I was like, well, after being such a piece of shit, maybe he had it coming.
I wonder. I've always wondered like how much cash banks keep on hand because like several years ago, Dad bought that Jeep.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't like have all the money to pay for it. So basically, I lent him $5,000 and then he paid me back.
Yeah.
But the guy he paid like wanted it in cash.
Yeah.
So I went to the bank to get it, and they're like, "Oh, we can't do that much right now. Like, you have to come back later." So like, they gave it to me that day, but I had to come back like several hours later.
Yeah, which if you consider they can't even like drag that much up for one customer.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
That's what I thought was crazy. I was like, "Really? This is a bank, and you don't have $5,000 on hand?"
Like Roman and I, we had to take out $2,000 or $3,000. I forget for what. And they didn't have it. Like, they didn't do it. And I was like, what the? It's like, how is... No, they did do it, but it was questionable. They're like, well, we don't know. And then they went in the back and like, I guess they're... I don't know. But they decided they could do it. But it was just like, just barely for $2,000-$3,000. I mean, if there was ever like a crisis where banks were shutting down, nobody would get anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. Hey, speaking of banks, like you've been watching Harry Potter lately, right?
Well, yeah, I recently watched the fourth one. I watched some of the other ones, I don't know, a month or two ago.
Well, there's been this controversy lately. You know how that like their bank in Harry Potter, I think it's called like Gringotts or something?
Something like that.
Like the trolls there or something, they're saying
are Jews.
like Jewish stereotypes. And I think they probably do have kind of a point, but like, I don't know if it was like super intentional or if it was just happenstance.
Like I never even.
But they do
thought
have
of
like
that.
the long noses and kind of look like Jewish stereotypes.
I mean, I never thought of it. I don't know.
It's one of those things where like
After you hear it, you're kind of like, well,
with that many people working on the movie, like it's kind of hard for me to believe that it was like super intentional.
yeah.
Um,
Someone would have been like, wait. But yeah, I don't know.
of course, like I think J.K. Rowling has a lot of input on because she still owns Harry Potter, and so like anything to do with Harry Potter needs her approval. So like maybe she's like, no, they look like this, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. It never even crossed my mind.
But apparently, it's kind of another thing that's become a hot button issue.
The thing is, like, it could just be like, you're like, oh, these goblins are gonna be the bankers, and then you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, that's true. That's the thing is like maybe it was intentional, but I'm thinking it probably wasn't, and now it was like an unfortunate happenstance. I'm thinking,
Yeah,
but
I mean, I wouldn't bet on her being like anti-Semitic,
that's what
transphobic, or all this shit.
I mean. I haven't read all the things she posted about the transphobia thing, so maybe that is.
It seems like I did at one point, and I was just like, "What's the big fucking deal?"
Well, I remember I read one of the things she posted that people were up in arms again, and that specific thing I read, like I was like, this doesn't seem that extreme. It certainly wasn't like saying "fuck you" to trans people, but I guess she has written other stuff, and maybe if I read all that stuff, I'd have a different feeling. I don't know.
Because I mean, like Dumbledore's supposed to be gay, and like a few things like that. It's like,
well,
you don't really think that.
But they have a problem with that too because they're saying like she basically said that after the fact, like it wasn't explicitly said in the books or something. It's just something she kind of said after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, you probably want to have some hesitance in a kid's book to be like, this homo is a. Yeah.
I mean,
like you think just put him in a relationship or something?
Yeah, you can have a gay relationship without it making it explicit. You'd be just like, oh, Dumbledore's boyfriend. I don't know. I don't know how you would word it, but yeah, I think you can have a gay relationship in a kid's book without making it weird.
Well, yeah, obviously, but
anyways, I got a story for you. Man pulls down pants, hops on McDonald's counter, and helicopters wiener.
Hey, if you got enough to helicopter, go for it.
A man has appeared in court after he dropped his trousers, leaped onto a McDonald's counter, and began to helicopter his penis while drunk. At around 5 a.m., now this story is a couple years old, but with a headline like that, I had to do it. At around 5 a.m. on the 22nd of July, this was in 2018, it looks like, Edinburgh Sheriff's Court heard that 29-year-old Ryan Dolan from Musselburgh stepped into the Mickey D. South Street Andrews Street branch, where he began pretending to serve customers prior to pulling down his pants and hula hooping his pecker around while staff and stunned patrons looked on. Out of the blue, he took his trousers and pants off, showing his penis and testicles, and thereafter was dancing with his trousers down. Nicole Lavelle, fiscal deputy, informed the court. After carrying out his outlandish routine, he pulled his kecks up, however, then hopped down on the employee's side of the counter. Justifiably, Dolan was asked by workers to leave, though he didn't pay any mind to their request and instead whipped out his genitals again. Lavelle furthered, he grabbed his penis and started to play with it, pretending to serve customers, and started dancing again, carrying out helicopter-like moves with his penis. The man's behavior was depicted by Lavelle as boisterous acts heavily fueled by alcohol. After several minutes, Dolan pulled his trousers back up and exited. He was arrested after police reviewed CCTV footage. This week, he pled guilty to committing acts of public indecency. Sheriff McCormick noted in court that Dolan had 2 previous convictions for similar offenses. The judge fined him $640 and warned him not to ever pull a stunt like that again or else. I mean,
I feel like you're just trying to go to jail, and then the judge was just like, "You want to go to jail? You're not going to jail."
it is weird though that like every time this guy gets drunk, like his first instinct is to pull out his dick and helicopter it around.
Well, it does lower inhibition, I guess. It's just like, "Yep, getting drunk tonight. Don't let me get my wiener out." 2 hours later,
the McDick is back. I mean, you know what I noticed about like British people is they say trousers.
yeah.
Like Americans, like I guess sometimes say trousers, but not very often. We say pants more than trousers.
Yeah, I think they have another word as well, and I'm kind of blanking. Anyway.
But yeah, I thought that was a funny story. You got anything else for us?
Vegas man caught driving with severed head was just an unlucky thief who picked the wrong car. That's his lawyer's defense.
Okay, I'm listening.
So yeah, basically they go to pull over this guy, and I guess they have like a brief standoff and end up arresting the guy. And then when they're doing the impound or whatever, they're like, "Oh man, this thing stinks," and they found a head and a torso and like legs or something. But yeah, like what are the balls on this lawyer? Like, oh, he's merely a thief. But apparently they also found footage of him like buying a saw at like a hardware store and different shit. It's like, yeah, I don't know. Like if you're a lawyer, you just gotta be like the world's biggest piece of shit. I think you just gotta go for it.
Well, I mean, you have to
defend them, but come on.
No, but the thing is like they teach you like when you become a lawyer that like innocent till proven guilty, like that has to be your mindset. Like no matter the facts, innocent till proven guilty. This is your client, they're innocent until proven guilty.
You just come in and be like, I was driving my car and then like God killed this guy and like transported him into my trunk. The Scotty from Star Trek. Yeah. Just make some shit up. It's pretty damning. You have this in the car. But I guess like if it's a stolen car as well, it's like, oh yeah, he's a car thief. He just happened to have a head in it. Oh, Jesus.
This one here is a bit of a dark story, but I was just like amazed that somebody could actually do this. Woman turns brain dead after drinking a liter of soy sauce due to fake news. The internet is a huge intangible place where vast amounts of information exist. The problem with this is that there's plenty of fake information which can be dangerous when people believe them to be true. One woman even turned brain dead due to soy sauce, all because of a fake news regarding a colon cleansing trick. Oh. An anonymous 39-year-old woman known only by her initials CG apparently found some health trend online. It involved drinking lots of soy sauce in order to cleanse her colon. It also seems that the said amount has to be as much as a liter of soy sauce. The case was explained by a YouTube doctor named Dr. Bernard from the University of Illinois. According to the doctor, within a few hours of drinking that much amount of soy sauce, CG felt her heart beating faster. It also seemed that CG resisted all the urge to drink water, which is what I find crazy, for some reason, probably because the health trend she found online said so. CG's husband later found her home collapsed and she was rushed immediately to the hospital. The doctors discovered that CG had acute hypernatremia, which is caused by a high amount of sodium in the blood. Despite the attempts to bring CG's sodium levels back to normal, the damage had been done already. She was able to gain consciousness but could not move, nor could she speak or swallow. Dr. Bernard explained that the said health trend was based on a half-truth only. It assumed that water in your body goes wherever sodium is present, hence the soy sauce intake. However, the huge amount of sodium in her stomach sucked in all the water from different parts of her body. The sodium also got into her brain via the bloodstream, leading to brain damage. So beware the soy sauce health trend or any other health advice, folks, and next time consult your doctor first. the thing that amazes me is like once you get like a half a bottle down, like the urge to drink water, you would have thought would have been like so great. It's amazing to me that she was able to resist it.
Not only that, but like drinking something that salty in that volume would be so foul. Like just
Awful.
your ability to do it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I can't believe she actually made it through the bottle. I mean, can you imagine?
I can't. I like soy sauce, but whew. Yeah. Yeah. Whew.
It is amazing though, like, just like how drinking shit can kill you. Like that radio show years back that had that water drinking competition, and like the person died because they drank so much water it like threw off their electrolyte balance or whatever.
Well, also like apparently for that they were using like distilled water, so it didn't have any electrolytes in it, and it also I don't know, it had other issues, but yeah, if you just drink a ton of water and not do anything else, it can like wash out your electrolytes. I've heard of people having issues like people doing like a cleanse, like they get electrolytes get low, but like people just doing like a ton of colonics.
Oh, jeez.
Or where like they're pumping like the water in and all
Right.
that and out, and if they did it so much that their electrolytes dropped, and I think they had like a seizure or something. They didn't
Like doing like kind of like enemas.
not necessarily an enema, like a colonic where they like fill you up.
Oh, okay. Oh, and they did those too much.
Yeah, and did it like enough that they lowered their electrolytes.
I mean, after you do one, like, are you really getting that much material if you go in for another one and another one?
I mean, probably not.
I wouldn't think so.
So, but yeah, apparently it happened.
Do you think it would kill you if you just did the same thing but with something like super sugary? I mean, people drink a ton of soda, so maybe not. It's basically pure sugar.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sugar's another thing. Like, if you get your sugar off, it can be dangerous. So, I wouldn't try that either.
I mean,
Like, there've been like more than multiple people died like because they tried to take alcohol anally.
oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
What do they call that? There's a name for it.
Is it butt chugging?
Butt chugging.
Yeah,
There might be another nickname
there
for it
might
too.
be. Yeah.
But butt chugging was what I was thinking of, I think. It's amazing what people will try to get high in different ways.
Yeah, it's something like I can understand experimenting, but definitely like take some precautions.
Yeah, stuff like that is crazy, man. But I guess if you really hate the taste of alcohol, it might be the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you get into the sports games. It's a vodka-filled dildo. A little push button release or something.
We got a few minutes left. You got anything else for us?
I guess one more. Ghislaine Maxwell, like she'd gotten the guilty verdict.
Oh, yeah, I haven't really been following this case.
Well, I mean, everyone was kind of expecting it and whatever, but it's come out that like one of the jurors had been apparently a victim of sexual abuse at some point, so they think they're probably going to get a retrial. So I don't know. It's kind of disappointing, but maybe not surprising.
But I mean, did any bombshells come out of this trailer or this trial?
Well, they did
because we already
They
knew
made
like
a point of not releasing like any, like the data in the book and stuff, the black book or whatever. It was too sensitive for the public. I don't know, something like that.
No, it sounds like bullshit.
It sounds like bullshit.
I mean, we already knew that like people like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump had interactions with them.
And the thing is, like, it's not. I wouldn't say it's even proof if you're in there, but it doesn't look good. Like it's a terrible look. But I mean, I could see a rich socialite giving people plane rides as favors. But like Clinton was definitely like on the island more than once. It sounded like, and I don't know. That's pretty damning, I think. But
What was this lady's role in the whole thing? Like she was kind of like
she'd contact the girls and they'd kind of groom them, and so I know like one case like she brought a girl in and it just started with like they'd have her give him massages or stuff, and just kind of slowly escalate it. So, but yeah, she was kind of like an in between, like actually like getting the girls signed on.
Were they actually like paying these girls money to keep them enticed?
They were paying for that. But there was also like one, I want to say it was like for one of his birthdays, they like paid some French families to basically get their daughters and like send them to the island to be raped.
Jeez.
Yeah, pretty awful.
Dude, there's this crazy story that I heard on a podcast. Actually, maybe it was a episode of Your Mom's House, but there's this Canadian guy, and I want to say he was like a fashion designer or something, a wealthy guy.
Yeah.
And he also had like his own like expensive house on some island somewhere. But they found like not only was he like sexually assaulting like a bunch of like underage girls, he was getting them pregnant, forcing them to get abortions, and then he was like using the stem cells from the abortions to like give himself injections or something. It was like a wild fucking story. Like this guy was
I haven't heard that one.
this guy is a true like psychopath. Like I really should like find out this guy's name and like the entire details of the story. And like I think he was only like found out because like he had some sort of land dispute with his neighbor, and it ended up getting him caught. But
jeez,
yeah, it was a crazy story.
like I watch a fair amount of true crime. Like it's usually serial killers though, so I guess rape is maybe a different category.
I don't know if this guy was actually killing anybody. I think he was just like raping.
Yeah.
But I'll have to find this guy's name for you because yeah, the story is insane.
It's like it's crazy what shit goes on. I mean, if you got money, you can hide a lot of shit.
Yeah, like some of these like super wealthy people, like you wonder if there's any chance they don't do like shady shit. Like maybe like Jeff Bezos is like a perfectly nice guy that's never done anything like crazy, but with that much money, like you almost think he had to.
Yeah, I mean, you
And I'm sure like, well, Epstein specifically, like, he targeted like rich and influential people on purpose.
right, and the thing is like you get those social circles going, and it's like there's a lot of power there, and like I'm kind of starting to appreciate that, like how much of a role that plays, just having all those connections. But I mean, if you can lure in like a prince or somebody,
Or a politician.
right, with some shit like that, I mean, and then you brought them to your place, so you probably have tapes and proof, and then you can get them to do whatever you want at that point.
Let's say you were a scumbag though, and he invited you to his fuck island. Wouldn't you be paranoid as all fuck that he was videotaping you for something like that?
You'd have to assume it. I mean,
that's why
and I guess you just make peace with it. Be like, well, yeah, we're in this together. If I go down, you go down. So
maybe that was a thing where they're like, I'll just turn you in if you like mutually assured destruction type
right.
shit.
So,
but still, like, I don't know. It just seems like crazy, but
yeah, it is kind of surprising that nothing more has really come out of that, even though we know like the high profile, so a couple of high profile ones. So I don't know.
Well, that's probably why nothing's come out of it, is because they're so rich and everything. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see if anything else comes out of that. I think even if she gets a retrial, though, it'll eventually be this, the same result.
Yeah, but dragging things out forever.
Although hopefully she doesn't find some sort of Cosby loophole.
Yeah, it's shocking that Cosby is free in the world.
I mean, yeah, that sucks. Well, on that pleasant note, we made it past the hour mark. Should we wrap this bad boy up?
Even though I wasn't feeling great. Yeah, let's put a stamp on this bad boy.
Well, we do thank everybody who listened or watched on YouTube. If you will, speaking of which, please, it does help us out. Please subscribe both to the YouTube feed and the podcast feed on your podcast service of choice. Leave us comments. We can even read them on the air if they're good. Leave us 5-star reviews. That really helps us out in the old algorithm. And go ahead and follow us on Twitter and interact with us on Twitter so we have something to do. Where can people find you on the Twitter?
At unsolicited SUG.
And he's not here, but you can find AJ at a name for this too. With that, that's the number 2. And you can find me at Zach Jones Live. That's ZachJonesLive. And that is going to do it for all of our shenanigans and poppycock this week. Please tune in again next week. Bye, guys.
Don't shit where you eat.
And
don't shit where you sleep.
And have a good one.
Yeah.